Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
7:07 now on this Monday morning, and a busy one at that. But that's not going to sway us. We're not going to shrink to the challenge. We're rising to it. Coming up at 8:05, Casey Crosby, RNC co-chair, find out how excited they are to breathe some funding into that Win Some Sears for Governor, Get Out the Vote project, right? Right. 8:35, Maryland delegate Mark Fisher. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock, I believe is your name, isn't it?
That's right. Good morning.
You look familiar to me. Honestly, I'm tempted to just say Joe diGenova, John Bolton, go. But I do have specific questions for you, Joe. Joe diGenova joins us now. Good morning, Joe. Joe?
I'm here.
There you are.
There he is.
I got to suspect, Joe, as you watched the events unfold Friday morning at John Bolton's home in Bethesda, right? You're very close to the radio station here.
Yes.
For a man like you, someone who's been in D.C. and worked in law, former U.S. attorney, and you've seen it all. It must drive you nuts to watch the people on cable news speculate, pontificate, and talk about legal actions like this when the FBI goes into somebody's home to look for evidence, especially considering you had to deal with a similar raid in your own home under the Biden administration.
That is correct. Well, what's interesting about this is it's being reported that this has something to do with the book, which was published many, many years ago. Well, it may very well have something to do with the book, but in order to get a search warrant, you have to have fresh information about something new to get a search warrant. You cannot use what the courts call stale facts to get a new search warrant. So what this shows us is that something has occurred within the recent period of time to justify a physical search of John Bolton's home and office. We don't know what that was that occurred, but we can speculate. And one of the things we know is that these types of search warrants involving classified information frequently involve the use of FISA warrants. And it may not have been, for example, a FISA warrant on the person who searched, but it may have been a FISA warrant on somebody else, and the person whose search name came up. But we don't know that. All we know is that the search warrant occurred and that it required a federal magistrate judge to find probable cause that a crime had been committed and that instruments of that crime were to be located in those two places. That's all we know. It doesn't mean John Bolton committed a crime, and no one should assume that. But it does mean that there was reasonable cause to look for documents or objects or things or electronic devices which might contain information on them.
Joe, when will we know? I've seen on X this weekend some, pretty provocative statements. Oh, you guys people are going to regret ever defending Bolton, and oh, this is going to be explosive. But when will those facts come out?
Well, generally speaking, what happens next is an investigation through a grand jury. Grand juries are secret. You're not supposed to know what happens in front of grand juries, but there will be leaks, and the leaks will probably tell us what the direction of the grand jury is, what it's about, who's the subject of the grand jury, and things like that. But this is not a quick process. It's a slow process, although it's very apparent that the FBI has been working on this for some time and gathering their information. And it's clear from the public statements from the FBI Director Patel and the Deputy Director Dan Bongino, who are, interestingly enough, doing something very unusual. They're making tweets about ongoing matters. Or apparently related to ongoing matters, which I think is in a way designed to keep people aware that they haven't dropped the ball and that they're not letting things fall by the wayside. I think it's an effort to let people know that they haven't forgotten why they're there.
It sounds like, if I may, or maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like, based on what you just said, that you would prefer, all things being equal in the best of possible worlds, that the director and the deputy director would not be tweeting anything about this ongoing situation.
Well, I think given the attitude of the American people and the press about all of this being about retribution, I think the lower the profile, the better. And as we used to say in the office, when I was U.S. Attorney. You don't speak to the public about cases. You speak through indictments, and you speak at sentencing. You're allowed to announce indictments, and you're allowed to talk about things that happen at sentencing. But I do understand this, that I think the director has at his core the desire to let people know that this is not James Comey's FBI. This is not the old FBI of J. Edgar Hoover and others who were acting politically motivated. I think they're trying to establish a baseline that this is a law enforcement, legal and fact-based thing. And I think, my view is, try to keep that stuff to a minimum.
But let's be clear, if we can just reiterate some of the important analysis you just gave us. Number one, this isn't just a resumption of the case that had been investigated and then thrown out by Merrick Garland. They just dropped the case, they decided, for whatever reason. There had to be something new to bring on this new search warrant. And, by the way, it could be related to some other individual that they're actually investigating, that they actually think is potentially guilty of criminal behavior. And they're merely looking for evidence for that criminal investigation at Mr. Bolton's residence. Am I understanding that?
That's exactly right, and I'll give you an example of that. When the search warrants were executed in 2021 for Rudy Giuliani's home and office and several other former U.S. attorneys, one in Arkansas and elsewhere, and then at our house in Chevy Chase in Kenwood, we were told, Victoria was told, that she was not the target of the investigation, but that she had communicated with people who were and that they needed her devices. Yeah. And so it's very obvious that people can be swept up in these investigations who are perfectly innocent because someone else is being investigated. And that may very well be the case with John Bolton.
And thank you for clarifying that, because I think it's important for everyone to realize that when the lawfare investigations were engaged at the end of the Trump administration and during the Biden administration, people like you and your wife got swept up in this. It's still a harrowing experience to have the FBI come knocking on your door, demanding you to go through your private papers, your private devices, et cetera, et cetera. Which brings me to an obvious question. What do you make of all of the people who immediately, like from the moment this started Friday morning, they were screaming, "This is outrageous. Two wrongs don't make a right. This is retribution. This is retaliation. This is the use of the law as a weapon." You must have been somewhat amused, if not outraged, at the same time.
Well, I think what's perfectly clear is that the people who say things like that are the useful idiots of the left. They're truly corrupt intellectually. Nobody with a brain can say anything like that with a straight face. The truth is that when the Southern District of New York executed those various search warrants at our house and Rudy Giuliani's office and other former federal senior government officials at their houses at the same time on the same day, the notion, and then nothing comes of it. Remember, those search warrants were executed, and then eventually the case was dropped about 18 months later, saying that no case would be brought. What is clear what was going on was that, and here's the corruption of that. The Southern District of New York was running defense for the Biden family. They were trying to prevent any information about the Biden corruption in Ukraine from becoming public. And we now know, as a result of all the releases by John Solomon, that the FBI and the DOJ were involved in a corrupt, and I mean criminally corrupt, effort to protect the Biden family and Hillary Clinton. And so the notion that by accident they execute simultaneous search warrants at multiple places because they feared that people that they were searching had information about the Bidens in Ukraine, to think that that was serious and sincere is BS.
All right, Joe, stay with us, Joe. We got more to talk to you about, including you mentioned John Solomon. He's got some revelations about James Comey and some leaks that occurred and some other things. And we want your take on the D.C. crime situation as well now, almost 2 weeks into the federal cooperation over law enforcement, and things seem to be going pretty well. So we'll continue with Joe diGenova in a moment. First, though, at 7:15, WMAL.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
We are almost 2 weeks into President Trump's crackdown on crime in Washington, D.C., the use of federal law enforcement to cooperate with Metropolitan Police Department and things seem to be going pretty well. All the crime statistics are down, including carjackings and homicides. In fact, we've gone now, I believe, 10, possibly 11 days without a homicide. We'll get you the updated number there. Joe diGenova, what happens at the end of this 30-day window? How can this continue? Can it continue? And what's sort of next here, as clearly it seems to be a success so far?
Well, Larry, it's clearly a stunning success. When you realize that all of the crime statistics from the District of Columbia are completely unreliable and fake. This has been a problem for major metropolitan police departments all over the country for years, mostly Democratic cities where they try to play down crime in order to make themselves look good. D.C. is no different. Bowser and others are simply lying about the facts. They have dumbed down all of the police statistics. We all know from public reporting that crime is much worse than they indicate. And the fact that certain types of crimes have simply disappeared as a result of flooding the zone by the federal government is proof positive that crime is afoot. And by the way, your instinct that this crime is now going to move to PG County is right on the money, because that's just what's going to happen. These criminals are smart. They are not dumb. They know what's going on. That's why they left the zone. The zone was flooded. And as far as, ongoing stuff, will it continue? It should. It should continue for at least another 60 to 90 days. Now, that requires, under the Home Rule Act, which should be amended to make it as long as the president wants it, not as long as Congress decided it should last. Congress is not designed to run anything. They shouldn't be putting limits on executive authority. So the president is either going to get the consent of Mayor Bowser to extend it, which he will not give, or Congress is going to have to extend it. Otherwise, the president can leave the guard on the ground without the consent of the mayor, even if he's no longer running the police department. And then it'll be up to the mayor and who's ever running the National Guard for the federal government to decide how to cooperate. So we don't know what's going to happen yet, but it's going to be very interesting.
Joe, there's been some videos of arrests on D.C. streets, and while people have the right to voice their anger at these arrests, I've seen some pedestrians and observers actually get physical with some of these law enforcement officials, and there doesn't seem to be any arrests of those people. It might be just trying to de-escalate or just trying to get out of there as quickly as possible, but is that allowed for an individual to interfere with an arrest of someone on the street? Because, again, these videos are pretty common on social media.
No, it is not allowed. And there's a reason for that. When a law enforcement official is making arrests, they are trying to subdue a defendant. Their gun is in their holster. Yep. While they're dealing with a defendant, someone who reaches in could take their gun and hurt them or kill someone or shoot an officer. If I were the United States attorney and anyone touched a police officer during any of these arrests, they would be locked up immediately. We would have a special group of assistants to deal with them. I'm sure Janine Perot is dealing with this. She's a very smart person. She's very tough. I'm sure they're trying to figure out a way to do two things: de-escalate and take into custody people who are serious threats. But make no mistake about it, when you allow the touching of an officer during an arrest, that is a crime. And it is dangerous because it encourages others to reach in and create a mob scene around an arresting officer. We've seen this in New York, where police officers were beaten by groups of thugs. If you let this get out of control when the arrests are being made, you're going to have a worse situation. And then you know what's going to happen? Officers are going to pull their weapon. They're going to shoot people.
Yeah.
Yep.
God forbid. Joe, real fast, we've learned from John Solomon's Just the News that there's now another declassified series of memos and testimony related to leaks that were given to, I know you'll be shocked that there were leaks coming out of the FBI, disclosed information given to the New York Times in October 2016. Now, that's before the presidential election. And according to then FBI General Counsel James Baker, he testified that he thought he was acting on Comey's direct instructions through his chief of staff, James Rybicki. What do you make of these revelations and a couple of other revelations that continue to sort of make James Comey look like a real dirty player in this whole thing?
Well, what I make of this is grave disappointment in the people who reviewed this evidence and decided to do nothing about it. And that happened during the Trump Justice Department. Much of this was reviewed by Trump DOJ people after Trump became president, and nothing was done about it. I must tell you, I am so nauseated by the weak-kneed approach to the FBI by the Trump First Justice Department. It's appalling. It's absolutely appalling. This conduct by Comey and Rybicki and Baker created the beginning of the conspiracy against Donald Trump to deny him the office of the presidency, and then after he became president, to get him impeached. Make no mistake about it. The first impeachment of Donald Trump was a direct result of the false flag operation involving the Russia hoax, and it needs to be investigated brand new from the start, starting in 2016. There is no doubt that crimes were committed against the president and the incoming president of the United States.
Joe diGenova, we have to leave it there, but a firecracker as usual this Monday. Thanks for joining us, and our best to your lovely wife, Victoria Tonsing, who's been very active on X. I suggest everybody follow her. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, guys.
It is 7:23.
Making sense of your world.
I don't know where to begin.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Thanks for taking my call.
Making sense of the news.
Coming up, we'll have an update on tough guy Wes Moore. Keep it here. It's 7:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington. A Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:37 now on O'Connor and Company, and we've got a busy 8 o'clock hour ahead of us. Get ready. At 8:05, we're going to speak with the co-chair of the RNC, Casey Crosby, and then at 8:35, Maryland delegate Mark Fisher. And we're going to talk about some Maryland politics right now. We've been talking, Julie Gunlock, a lot about your state there, Virginia, because, things are just, you're Looney Tunes.
A lot of crazy over here, but you're right. It is time for Maryland to have our attention.
Maryland's just as crazy. Let's face it. And it's not like we have been over. I mean, certainly when Chris Van Hollen was celebrating Maryland man Abrego Garcia, who, by the way, is now engaged in a rally for his own behalf as we speak in Maryland.
God.
We'll give you some details on that in a bit. But, we divide our attention between D.C., Maryland, Virginia, and, of course, the entire nation and the world when the news cycle is appropriate. And right now the news cycle has been dipping into Virginia's favor with the governor's race and all the lunacy that's going on. And I think the other reason we talk about Virginia more is that there's still hope there. It's like we have higher expectations for Virginia. Maryland, sadly, I think we sort of talk about what's going on, but even as a Marylander, I have to say the hope is slim to none right now.
Maryland can be saved.
I would like to think that it can be saved. I would like to think so.
Don't be
but not with this current governor. Not with Wes Moore, who, of course, is running for president, but he's got to get past this hurdle of re-election first. If he does not win re-election, he's done. And so now, but for some reason, he's decided that it's important for him to engage with Donald Trump. And so he's fighting Donald Trump because that's what all the cool kids are doing right now if you're a Democrat. Just look at Gavin Newsom. Here's Wes Moore on Face the Nation challenging Donald Trump to walk the streets of Maryland. Listen.
The reason that I've asked the president to come and join us is because he seems to enjoy living in this blissful ignorance, these tropes and these 1980 scare tactics. While the president is spending his time from the Oval Office making jabs and attacks at us, there are people actually on the ground doing the work who know what supports would actually work to continue to bring down crime, but it's falling on deaf ears of the president of the United States.
Right, so, this, of course, is talking about the D.C. crime problem. And he's been highly critical of what President Trump is trying to do in D.C. And all Moore says is, we've made such progress. Baltimore is the fourth most dangerous city in the country. So now maybe it's not the third most dangerous city in the country anymore, if that's what he's proud of. But that's cold comfort to the people who live in Baltimore who have to deal with this garbage every day.
Well, it also, politicians like Westmore, obviously Obama, talk about the school to prison pipeline. You know what the school to prison pipeline is? Baltimore schools. When you don't teach kids, where they come out of there illiterate, unable to do any sort of on-grade math. It is Baltimore schools are the shame of the country. Yeah. That is what leads to crime. Not educating kids, not giving them a fair shake at life.
That's right.
And he talks about it's just gross.
Now, I know you were going to be shocked by this, but President Trump responded. On Truth Social, he said, Governor Westmore of Maryland has asked in a rather nasty and provocative tone that I walk the streets of Maryland with him. I assume he's talking about out-of-control, crime-ridden Baltimore. As president, I would much prefer that he clean up this crime disaster before I go there for a walk. Westmore's record on crime is a very bad one unless he fudges his figures on crime like many of the other blue states are doing. But if Westmore needs help like Gavin Newsom did in L.A., I'll send in the troops, which is being done in nearby D.C., and quickly clean up the crime. After only 1 week, there's no crime and no murder in D.C. When it's like that in Baltimore, I'll proudly walk the streets with the failing because of crime governor of Maryland. Then Westmore responded. They're all trying to beat Trump on social media and act like Trump. Westmore said, President Bone Spurs will do anything to get out of walking.
Wow.
Even if that means spouting off more lies about the progress we're making on public safety in Maryland. There's no lie. It is the fourth most dangerous city in the country. Hey, Donald, we can get you a golf cart if that makes things easier. Just let my team know. Now, the Bone Spurs is a reference to President Trump being ineligible for the Vietnamese draft, the Vietnam War draft, because of Bone Spurs. Trump responded and said, did Westmore, the governor of Maryland, lie about getting a Bronze Star? Which he did, by the way.
Yes.
He claimed he had received a Bronze Star. He had not. Now, he had been recommended for Bronze, and he eventually did get his Bronze Star.
In 2020, was it 23?
I'm not sure the details of that, but...
Yeah, it was late, and it was, in my opinion, I mean, it seemed like, they did this as a rescue effort because he had nodded his head when they would bring up when reporters would bring up the Bronze Star. There was Westmore nodding his head, never correcting it. And then they had to sort of back end him a Bronze Star to save face.
Yeah, I'll look at the timing of when he actually did get the Bronze Star and receive it, but I do know that he filled out applications and claimed in his resume that he had received it when, in fact, he had not received it. Again, I think the murky story is that his senior officers recommended him for a Bronze Star, but he never officially got it, but he was supposed to have gotten it. That's the story we got. But he claimed absolutely that he received it when technically he had not.
By the way, he did get his Bronze Star in 2024, 18 years after his service.
There you go.
I'm reading Maryland Matters. So
there you go.
There you go.
Either way, that's the back and forth going on. And again, Westmore wants to run for president. He thinks engaging with Trump like this is the way to do it. This is going to come back to bite him when things don't get better in Baltimore, when things don't get better in Maryland, and whoever the Republican nominee can say, hey, pal, how about you take care of business right here instead of worrying about what's happening in D.C.
Also, don't try to troll the king troll. Don't try that.
It's 7:43. We've got a New York update. A couple of things going on with your favorite communist, Zoran Mamdani. First of all, he's talking to billionaires. This is a guy who thinks we shouldn't have billionaires, by the way. But he's happy to take their money. His super PAC took a hefty check, according to Fox News, from ultra-wealthy donor, despite saying billionaires shouldn't exist. I don't know if this is the billionaire giving him money for a protection racket, or what, or this is just a self-loathing billionaire who loves his socialism because he can afford it. But I'm shocked to see hypocrisy going on with people who are socialists.
Shocked.
Yes.
Gambling.
Also, he's now made public his plan. We already know that he wants to have government-run grocery stores, right?
Yep.
And he wants to have all the buses be free. No one has to pay to be on the bus, which, of course, will mean these are basically rolling homeless shelters and drug dens and places to conduct prostitution. But now we've got this one. He wants to end all misdemeanor charges. It's no longer against the law. to violate a
This
misdemeanor.
is unbelievable.
Democrat mayor,
know
this
this
is New York
doesn't work.
Post. New York Post. Democrat mayoral frontrunner Zora Mamdani and his comrades at the Democrat Socialists of America want to wipe out the enforcement of all misdemeanor offenses. In its most recent platform, the group blasts policing and detentions as instruments of class war. This is his party, the Democrat Socialists of America, designed to guarantee the domination of the working class and demands an end to what it calls the criminalization of working class survival. For all of the working class to achieve collective liberation, we must constrain, diminish, and abolish the carceral law forces of the state, from prisons and police themselves to the manifestations in all forms throughout society. That's according to the National Party's latest platform. That's his party. That's what he would advocate. So that'll work.
Can we get to the important part about him bench pressing like nothing?
I
Larry.
I knew you were going to get frustrated.
This is the fun part. I'm
actually covering what this guy stands for and believes and how he'll
Get to
ruin
the
this.
bench press.
You're right. Well, what was this photo op? It was some event going on.
Yes, he kind of walked into it.
Yeah, he did. It's called Men's Day in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And they put out a bunch of Go ahead.
I just love that some campaign staffer was like, we really need to win back men. So they're like, let's go to Men's Day. Great idea. Perfect,
So
right?
He's walking the streets in Men's Day, and there's a bench, a weightlifting bench with a rack, and he's going to go bench press. Now, it looked like it was about 125 pounds, I want to say, maybe 135 pounds.
I think it was 135 pounds.
And he's got a guy spotting him.
That guy's not spotting him. That guy is lifting. He's working hard.
Being very generous when it comes to spotting. Here's what it sounded like as he grunted and groaned to barely make it up. Listen.
Let's go. Yeah. Let me get one more. Let me get three. Yeah.
Now, that's the spotter. And when he says, let me get three, that he's being very accurate because he was the one getting three reps.
And Mamdani was like, 3? What? I'm going to die. Honestly, I have a 16-year-old son who lifts, who does this. And I asked him, and he goes, no, Mom, that's not much. Not for a guy. And we kind of guessed Mamdani's weight and height within reason. And my 16-year-old son was like, no, that's not good. So
this is not a good photo op. This should be used in campaign ads against him, I'm sure. He's only 33 years old, and he should be able to, he's
and of
privileged.
Course, Eric Adams, they're all they're all then, of course, posting what they can lift. It's hilarious.
Eric Adams posted a video of himself. He looked pretty good, actually. He's a former cop. He keeps himself fit. He's 64 years old. He posted a video of him bench pressing, and he said, 64 versus 33, a lifetime of hard work versus a silver spoon. The results speak for themselves. The weight of the job is too heavy for Mom Scrawny. The only thing he can lift is your taxes. All right, Eric Adams. I see you. It's 7:53.